So first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am currently just outside of Tel Aviv in Israel. This is where our offices are. I came into a smaller room now to have some quiet. I hope it's not echoing. So warm regards from Israel, and we have people on our call from all corners of the world, as you heard: Hong Kong, Colombia, New York, Guam, Portugal, a lot going on, so it's wonderful to connect with you all today and really appreciate it. We are going to have a lovely hour together, I think. We're going to discuss a bit about points of view, a bit about the coaching game, what's inside the game, different ways to use the game one-on-one and with groups, a bit about the cards and about good cards and bad cards, about the process charts, and basically any questions that you have as well. So if you'll notice by your name, there is a little icon. Oh, good, Margaret. I'm glad you can hear me. Wonderful. Good. Okay. Next to your name, there is a little icon with a camera. And you can go ahead, if you haven't yet, and click to turn on your camera so we can see your beautiful smile. And next to the camera icon is a little microphone button. And if you'd like to at any point, don't be concerned with being polite. You don't need to raise your hand in the group. I might not see that. If you have any questions or you didn't understand or you'd like to add something from your experience or whatever it is, then please just take yourself off of mute and speak up. Because if you're wondering it and thinking it, then maybe somebody else is too. And that's really what makes this session special. It's all of you. So don't be shy. That's why we're here. So a quick bit about me. My name is Talia Menachem. I've been here Points of View for almost 2.5 years, and I'm doing international global business development and love it. Most of my work includes working with all of our certified trainers. We have a really neat trainer certification program, and it's a 5-day, 4-night course. I'll tell you about it later. We have over 100 certified trainers in 40 countries, and so I get to work closely with them, and it's a gift. I love it, and I'm pleased really to be doing that and also to have this call with you guys. As you may or may not know, Points of View started in 2007, was started by Efrat Shani and Yaron Golan. They are an incredible pair, and they basically, it's a really neat story, and I'll send you a link about it later, but they started a project called Pay It Forward once they were inspired and saw the movie, and then they traveled all over Israel, and they did really beautiful work in this Pay It Forward organization, and then they realized that once they would leave somewhere, everything would just kind of fall down, and so they wanted to create some kind of tool, some kind of game that can continue to pay it forward and keep doing the empowering and inspiring work there without being dependent on them being there. And so then we had the coaching game be born. And so that's a very brief history of the coaching game, but it is a really neat story. And after our call today, I'm going to send you an email with a whole bunch of goodies, a bunch that I already know I'm going to send, and depending what kinds of questions and things you come up with during the session as well, I'll be happy to send them to you. So I'll include there a link about that. So, Points of View tools, we have the coaching game and Punctum, are used by people of all ages all over the world, whether it's NASA for team building, schools, prisons, social workers. I spoke with a wonderful woman yesterday who works in the mining industry in behavioral change management. So she's now in a mine in Mexico using the coaching game with the team. Very, very flexible uses, and I hope to hear a bit about the work that you're doing too at some point during the call. And it's very inspiring, very flexible, all ages. We'll get into that a bit as well. So we have the coaching game. And as I believe you all have seen and experienced, I think that you all have the game. You got something that looks something like this. Let me close it. Ta-da! Right? And inside is cloth. It can be used indoors, outdoors, machine washable, which is great. Inside we have 4 different things going on here. We have 65 cards. We have a cloth process chart, we have focus notes, and we also have the book. And so we're going to go through them one by one and discuss them a bit. Yes, questions? Okay, welcome to call-in user 3 then. I'm going to put you on mute now. If you have questions, please take yourself off of mute. Okay, great. So we're going to start with the cards. They're quite a main focus of the coaching game. As you'll notice, there are 65 cards in the coaching game that each have a photo and a topic. Now there's all sorts of different types of cards. Here's one that says success, choice, neglect, intuition, so forth, so on, calling. And the coaching game and all the points of view tools are based on phototherapy principles. Efrat, who is one of the co-creators, she is a phototherapist, she's a theater director, a designer, all sorts of neat creative things, and basically is fascinated by what happens when a photo meets a word, what happens when it meets a question, and the associations, and so there's a whole world of phototherapy going on with the tools. And it's neat because photography is a language everybody's speaking today. And these photos really trigger an internal photo, hi Mary, welcome, an internal photo memory bank. You see a picture and suddenly you're reminded of your grandmother and how she used to teach you how to blah, 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 and it takes you somewhere totally unexpected. And so that's why we have photographs. There are different kinds of cards, like we said. There are good cards, like success, and then there are bad cards, and of course I hope you can see my air quotes here. If you can't, then I'm doing air quotes because there really are no good cards or bad cards. But then there's also cards like death, or for example neglect, or ego, failure, cards that sometimes people may get stressed out about actually, and are considered the bad cards. So I am reminding you right now that there basically are no such thing as good cards or bad cards. It's all about your point of view and whether you're using the cards for an icebreaker or with a team, whether you're defining values or working on communication strengths. All of the cards are very applicable. It's all about your point of view. And in a brief story, actually once at the very beginning when the coaching game first came out, Yaron was doing a workshop with a bunch of people, all sorts of ages, and he had never experienced someone choosing the death card face down in the workshop. And suddenly there was one elderly woman in this workshop, and of course, as you're probably guessing, she's the one who chose the death card. And she was very elderly. And he started to sweat. He got nervous. He couldn't believe out of 65 cards, how did she get this card? He started thinking, okay, maybe I should go say something to her. Perhaps she wants to change her card, maybe trying to fix it. And in the end, he trusted the process and he went along with it. And this woman ended up sharing how until this moment when she chose the card, she hadn't given herself the opportunity to grieve for her late husband, and that this was such a gift, and she was so thankful, and wow. And of course, that's not what he expected. And so it's a great story and a quick reminder to, hi Rick, welcome, to check our assumptions, to check what we are projecting as trainers, as coaches, as therapists, as educators. You know, sometimes it's our issue with a card that we may have if we're going to be using it, and it's an opportunity, it could be a gift, it's all about their point of view for your participants. And even if it's a sales training, and you think, I don't know, death, how can I incorporate that card? Why should it still be in the deck? Or you're working with high schoolers, it's okay. It's there for a reason. Trust the process, and it's going to connect. People will connect to it one way or the other. Another little tip is that if, when you're using the coaching game in general, and you're using it, for example, like I said, an icebreaker or a full workshop on defining goals, or talking about addiction, whatever it might be, and somebody, one of your participants or clients, even if it's one-on-one or with groups, chooses a card that they don't get. They don't like it, they don't connect, they don't want it, nothing, there's a wall. Don't freak out, it's okay, it happens. There are two things that you can do. First of all, we explain to all of our participants in workshops, or even if it's one-on-one, that at any time during a workshop, they can absolutely feel free to exchange their card for a different one and take a different one from the deck. Perhaps they don't want to deal with death today. Maybe it's a bit too much for them. Maybe it's just a bit too confronting. They don't feel comfortable. Whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. And it's okay. They can exchange the card and choose a new one. We will, however, kindly let them know that from our experience, even if you choose to change the card that you are going to be focusing on for the session, that card that you chose at first, it's going to kind of haunt you. It's going to kind of stay with you. So since we're in a safe space, since we're here together, here's an opportunity to look at it from a different perspective and do a little bit of work. So that's what we'll say, very lovingly. And if they want to exchange the cards, no judgment. Another thing that you can also do along the same lines is that if someone chooses a card, for example, like I said, death, I'm going to choose another card randomly here, you can let them know that they can choose a helper card. They feel stuck, it's too much for them, choose another card randomly, put it together, this one says balance, and then see where the insights take them. For example, I may say, okay, this isn't a life or death issue. It's not black and white. My management skills aren't this way or that way, there's something in the middle, and so it might make it a bit more accessible for your participants, clients, teams, executives, whoever, to discuss whatever topic it is that you're discussing. So those two rules are kind of like the only rules that we have, because there is no right or wrong way to use the coaching game. It's just two guidelines that can help you, and they don't need to be used too often either. Trust the process and let it go. Okay, we were talking about the good cards and the bad cards, and that it's really all about your point of view. As you will also notice, there are two main ways that you can use the cards in the coaching game. They can, well, first of all, questions? Does anybody have a question? No from you, great. So happy to see your face, Crystal. It's wonderful. Let's see everybody else. Yes.
This is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. You know, I'm really glad you addressed that because I've used the cards as icebreakers and using the deck with someone else who also has a point of view deck. And we had been so uncomfortable with that death card that we took it out. We took it out because, but now I more or less realize, and then I think I even knew it then, that it was my discomfort. So I'm going to put it back in, and as you said, use the terminology to trust the process and see where it goes from there.
Definitely, definitely, and it's totally okay that you did. It's a very common, oh, I'm going to mute you just for a moment. It's a very common feeling and experience, especially, I mean, you could be working with high schoolers, or you could even be working with second graders, or with executives, and you're discussing the most corporate, whoa, kind of thing, and what space, you know, what kind of conversations are we going to get into if the death card comes up, and sometimes it feels too much. And so, first of all, I congratulate you on the acknowledgement that perhaps there's your own issue with it, but it's very common, so don't judge yourself too much on that. But really, really great. Thank you for sharing about trusting the process. We never take out cards, whether we're working with a bunch of pastors and rabbis, or whether we're working with, sometimes maybe with children, but I can tell you one more very brief story. It's also your own story. When his father passed away, and they, at the end of the 7 days that they had their condolence calls at their family's home, they used the cards. And everybody chose a card face up that expressed how they were feeling with the loss of their father, their grandfather. And Yaron's niece, who is 8 years old, was quiet the whole week. She didn't speak, nothing. Everybody was a little concerned, didn't understand what was going on. Cheerful girl, quiet. And she chose the card, well, I don't remember what card she chose, but the topic was death, I guess. Maybe that's how I got to the story. And, oh, I think it was, anyway, she started sharing that she felt that she had said something to her grandfather the day before, and then he died. And so she thought that he died because of what she said. And she was carrying that around with her for this entire week, and the card that she got, and all of the cards were there, really unlocked that for her, made it accessible for her to share. And so suddenly everybody knew that this little girl is feeling guilty. I guess it was the guilt card, and that's how I got to this. That she got the guilt card, and that's how she was able to share. It was my fault, that's why my grandfather died, I did it, I'm sorry, and then they were able to assist her. So, sort of connected maybe to what you were sharing, but trust the process, keep it in, and see where it goes. And even everybody deals with those issues too, and they may take it in a totally different direction. Death of my idea, the new beginning, this card, I see balloons, right? Celebrations that ended, who knows, you never know. So keep it in. Thanks for sharing. Jill, did you? Yes?
I just had one quick thought. Yes. And that was, and not to take us off topic, but in tarot, if you look at tarot cards, the death card really means change. It doesn't mean death. And it's just something, it's a way of sort of thinking about it differently or reframing to help us get comfortable with our stuff before we bring it to other people.
Totally. Totally need to be aware about. I appreciate that. And also there's a lot of people who use the coaching game with metaphors too. And so suddenly if you're talking about an issue and a card comes up that you're not sure about, then just taking just a word even and then coming up with some metaphors and association is a really neat way to kind of continue, get the thoughts flowing a bit. Any other questions, thoughts? Sorry. Okay. So that is about the good cards and the bad cards. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on about was about using the cards face up and face down. And there are different times where you may choose to use the cards face up in a group or one-on-one or face down, and there are advantages and disadvantages. So, for example, most often, I will tell you that for most of our activities that we do, we will use the cards face down. One of the benefits is that, of course, you are going to be able to look at things from an entirely different perspective. One moment. Hi, Dale. Welcome. Putting you on mute. Okay. You're going to have the opportunity to look at things from a completely different perspective. Osi, our CEO, she had a workshop for managers here in our office this week. And she had everybody introduce themselves with the cards. First, she had them introduce kind of 3 different times. She had them introduce themselves in the way that they normally do in their corporate environment. Hi, my name is Jill. I've been in HR for 25 years, blah, 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 that way. And then she had them all choose cards face up, and this way they were able to choose a card that reflects them. Choose a card that they wanted to introduce themselves through that card, and so here I am, Talia, I'm going to meet, Iris and Elena and Cristobal, and I choose the card communication because it feels like, how I feel in the group setting, and I like to communicate, blah, blah, blah. Then, and everybody went around, and then she also had them then introduce themselves with the card face down. They each chose a card face down and introduced themselves from that point of view. And that's the magic, really. I'm going to choose a card face down. Point of view. That's what I got. Kidding. That's kind of the magic of using the cards face down, is that you are going to share, whether it's about your strengths as a leader, whether it's about your identity as a mother, or it's about your whatever it is, from a totally different perspective. And you can also always encourage, whether it's at this point of an icebreaker, for example, of introducing yourselves, or whether it's in another process that you're doing, when participants or your client is looking at the cards, we'll often encourage them to cover up the word and to just focus on the photo. And so even now, I could introduce myself just from this photo, and you're going to get a totally different introduction on who I am than if I was to connect to the word right away. Because even though it takes up such a teeny tiny real estate on this card, that's what most people will focus on. So look at the word and say, oh, it's the point of view card, it's the communication card, it's the desk card. Well, there's also a photo there for very good reason. And so covering up that word will give your participants or clients an opportunity to focus on the photo, answer the question through the photo, and then to take their finger off of the word and see how it connects. How does it not connect? Would they give it a different title? There's a neat card that's in the newer sets of the coaching game that explains how to look at a photo and how to look at a word. If you have a game that's a bit older and doesn't have that card, or even if you do, I'm going to send that to you as well in the email. So you'll have all sorts of really wonderful questions that are based on phototherapy a bit of how to look at a card and how to guide your participants, your clients, into looking at this card instead of just jumping into the conversation. Even though you may be familiar with the card, for your participants or team members or clients, it may be the first time that they see the card and a lot can come up. And so giving them a few moments to process and to look and to see, okay, for example, oh, this is one of my favorite cards, failure here. Okay, what do I see? What, if I was to place myself in this photo, where would I put myself, if at all? If I was to zoom out, what do I see? These answers are going to tell you a lot. Whether it's for human resources interviewing process and someone is talking to you about joining a team and they're in an interview, and you say to them, what's important for me in a workplace, and I need to explain that, and suddenly they say, I feel like every place I've worked, I'm this person who's stuck on the floor and can't get up. Great, thank you for sharing. It's really important to hear. If you're not the person who's pulling them up, okay, great. All of these kinds of sharings and insights are really very reflective, and that's the whole point. It's a very reflective tool, and a lot of, it's associative as well. A lot of associations going on, and that's the point. Yes.
I just have a clarifying question. Did you say that you were going to send us a list of questions?
Yes, yes, yes. It's going to be a super juicy email. There's going to be a lot in there. So there's going to be, oops, I'm going to just real quick put you back on mute. There is, you'll see. But the questions about how to look at a photo and how to look at a word will definitely be in there. And if you want one of those cards too, then I can check if we have more of them and we can just send one you in the mail. No problem. That's easy. Thanks, Karen. Okay. Let's see here. So what was I just saying about? Okay. So that was about the cards, and we had spoken a bit about the face up and the face down. I want to go back to that. So face down, the advantages are, of course, that you're going to have a conversation that's coming from a totally different perspective. Teams that are feeling stuck, or students, for example, who are used to talking about things in the same ways all the time. This is a way for them to think about things in a totally different perspective. One of the disadvantages or the drawbacks of having the cards face down and totally random is that for some people it can be a bit confronting. What are we doing using cards? What are we doing playing? This is a bank, you know, it's just too much for them. And so it can be a bit confronting. And so we still do it, it's okay. But some people, again, may need that helper card, or they may need to switch their card. And if it's totally not working for some reason with the client and it's not accessible for the card to be face down, it's okay. Change the plan, have the cards face up, have them choose cards that reflect the answer or the topic that you're discussing, and start a conversation from there. So it may be confronting for some, but usually if you're creating a safe space, like I'm sure that you all are in your training sessions or in your therapy session, whatever it might be, then it's going to be okay. Again, trust the process. So those are some of the drawbacks and the positives of the face down. Now, using the cards face up, also fantastic advantages. You are able to identify where your team is right now. Okay, if you're talking about our project, or we're talking about a project we just completed. How am I feeling about our teamwork? And suddenly everyone's choosing cards, and you really get to see where they're at right now. And that is going to make sharing a bit more accessible for them. Oftentimes, the process when you're using the cards face up can become a little bit more time intensive because they have a lot to say about it in that they are connected to that card. It's really reflective of where they're at. Choosing the card face up will often take a bit more time as well than choosing a card randomly. And it's also neat and powerful. There's some activities we do. For example, one is called My Photo Album, which uses the cards face up. It's an activity with the cards face up. And we'll put the 65 cards, or if there's a lot of people, we'll use another deck, face up in the middle of the room. And it could be my photo album of my values, my photo album of my leadership, of what's important to me in a workplace, of my rehabilitation and my rehab, relationship with my body, whatever topic it is that you work with. And we will tell them to choose 3 to 5 cards that together make a photo album about how they feel about my career, let's say, okay? So I would go choose the cards face up, 3 to 5 of them that reflect how I'm feeling about my career. Karen would go choose 3 to 5. And then we break up the groups break up the large group into smaller groups of maybe 3, 4 people. Then what we'll do is then we'll instruct everybody to choose who's going to be first. Karen, she would go first. She's going to take her 3 to 5 cards, her photo album. She's going to put them in the middle of her circle of her small group. And instead of sharing why she chose these cards, everybody else is going to first give their perspective on why they think Karen chose these cards to reflect how she feels about her career right now. And then only after everybody else shares their perspective, then Karen is going to say, most likely something like, wow, thank you for sharing your perspective. I didn't even think of that when I chose a giraffe or when I chose this beginning card, but thank you for your perspectives, and here's why I chose these. And so that's an activity that we do, and I'll send you also a link to that of my photo album that uses the cards face up, and it's intended to, and it's fantastic. Question? Okay, that's a bit about the face up and the face down. Again, most of the time you use them face down. No right or wrong way. Try it a few different ways and see what works best for you and how you feel most comfortable, and then also what works most effectively for the participants. You'll also notice that on the bottom of every card there is a number, and there's also a symbol. The symbol reflects a series. There's 5 different series in the coaching game, and there are different groups of cards by topic. Some people never pay attention to the series. Great. Some people will do workshops, 5 different workshops based on each series. Wonderful. It's up to you. In the beginning of the book of the coaching game, it explains a bit about the series, and so you can incorporate that as little or not, whatever, as you'd like. Personally, I don't use it too much. However, if, for example, when you're using the layout chart or in my photo album process, for example, if the cards were all chosen from the same series, all from the difficulty series, for example, then that can be very telling, and there's a pattern that may be worth identifying and bringing up and sharing and discussing, but that's up to you. All right, there's also a number at the bottom of every page, and this number corresponds to a page in the book that comes in the coaching game, which is one of my favorite parts of the coaching game. I don't know if any of you have used the book in any of your workshops or have ever read it or perused the pages to see what's going on in here, but there are a lot of really neat stories. Each card has its own 2-page spread. I'm going to go to 18 for beginning. And here you have a story, quotes, questions, more images, and text here, like that are all about this topic, beginning, and connect with the photo as well. And the whole point is to offer different perspectives. Some can be provocative, some can be not politically correct. There's a quote from Hitler in the coaching game book. And that's okay. They're all different perspectives. And my favorite way that we use the coaching game book in workshops, we have a 90-minute session that we call an experiential encounter, and it can be used for any topic, any ages. It's really neat. I hope for all of you to come join us in one of these sessions at some point. We'll be in New York in May, so maybe that's a good opportunity for some of you, where we will read 6 different stories during the 90-minute session. And basically a little bit about the session is that we'll talk a very little bit at the beginning, and then there could be 20 people or 200 people in the room, and everybody will choose a card face down, and then they'll be broken down into pairs. And then the questions most often are, what is working well in my life? What is not working well in my life? And what do I want to invite into my life? Of course, these can be adapted to any topic. What is working well in my recovery? What is working well in my communication? What is working well in my team building? What is working well in my management? What is working well in my motherhood? Any topics. It's the most flexible, simple way to use very simple questions with the cards and get very powerful, effective results. Little tip. Okay, so once the partners will share what is working well in my life, partner A will share with partner B, then we'll stop them and we'll read a story from the book. And there are fantastic stories that we use for a couple of different purposes. One is to offer a little bit of a pause in between sharing. Sometimes training sessions or therapy session, whatever the objective is of your group, it can be a lot. People are sharing, there's a lot of emotions that are coming up, there's a lot of things participants are choosing to share, and there's a lot of things that they're not choosing to share, but they're experiencing. And so I use it as a little bit of a timeout. Sometimes people will be listening to the story. Most of the stories are funny that we choose to read during these times, and they'll laugh. Sometimes people are somewhere else, processing who knows what. That's okay. We're not concerned that everybody's listening. It's just a bit of a break. So beginning is a fantastic story. Stuck is my absolute favorite story to read. If you want to hear it later, I'll read it to you. It's a great opportunity to incorporate some performance into your workshops, to bring these stories to life and to really offer them a different point of view and a little, you know, a moral to the story, kind of Zen tale or all sorts of different Sufi story, all sorts of different stories that people will connect to in who knows what kinds of ways, but it works. So the stories are fantastic. Judgment is a good one. Authenticity is fantastic, should be. I'll send it to you in an email with my favorite story.
Talia, yes, I have a question. Iris here.
Hi,
Iris. I restrain myself of looking at all the questions so that my brain, my questions, my interpretations, my perspectives stay fresh. It's a bit, I presume it's a bit stupid, but that's my concern. I've got the book for 4 years now, and I haven't read all the stories yet.
Well, first of all, that's okay. A little secret is that I haven't read all of them. I keep finding some that I missed somehow, so it's okay. But I didn't understand the first part of what you said. The questions that are inside the coaching game book?
No, the stories. You know, I'll always read the stories when someone picks the card, and then, you know, I'll ask for their perspective, and sometimes I'll share what I see in the cards. So I'm wondering, if I'm reading the same story again and again and again, do I always come up with the same connections, or?
Well, only you know the answer to that, but I have a very good guess because from my experience of using this game for weekly meetings here in our office, in endless workshops and retreats, that every story and every question and every word and every card is going to be experienced entirely differently every time that you see it, because you yourself are in a different place. You're talking about a different topic. Even if you're not talking about a different topic, you're having a different kind of day, and there's different associations that are going to be made. So even though I've seen this card 100 million zillion cards, you know, over and over again, it depends what I'm talking about, and I'll connect to it in an entirely different way.
Okay, thanks for sharing that.
That's just me, and I feel like give yourself a break, I feel like, also, and consider for yourself, if you're seeing it in the same way, it's a wonderful thing to be aware of as well. Well, we're talking about something totally different now, and I'm looking at this card and I see the same thing. Well, here's an opportunity to pause for a second and think about that. Why is that? What could I maybe think about differently? And perhaps using the stories, of course there are no answers. There are no answers in the coaching game. It's just about offering different perspectives and allowing you to check in with yourself. It's really just about an opportunity to pause and to connect and to see how you're doing, kind of a thing. And so I think that that's the point of the stories and the questions in there and the cards. Think about that next time you're playing too, and think about how you might see it in a different perspective.
Thank you. I will.
Pleasure. Any other questions, thoughts, comments, ideas, tips? Okay. Yes, Cristobal. I'm going to unmute you. Okay. Oops.
Yes. I want to know, how do you handle large groups? Do you have many sets of cards, or do you use just one set, and how do you handle that?
Fantastic question. Thank you, Cristobal. So basically, you can use one set of the coaching game with up to 65 people because you have 65 cards. And when we do an experiential encounter where everybody's going to need only one card, a 1.5 hour, 2 hour session, then we only need one set of the game. If, for example, like when we were in Washington, D.C. last year for a Training and Development Expo, we had 250 people doing our 1 hour session. We had many different sets of cards in the middle of the room, and that's basically the only difference. If you have 800 people in a room and you're going to be doing an experiential encounter, which is doable, you'll just need a set of the coaching game at every table, or many different sets of the cards, a few facilitators to assist you, and then you got it. So it's really just a numbers game. Great, fantastic question. Yes, Dale. Dale, did you have a question? I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, I'm new to the game. Very interested in starting to use it in my practice.
Fantastic.
I am a leadership development coach. Could you talk a bit about how you can use it in leadership development and in team building?
Absolutely, absolutely. In the ways that I've shared so far, hold on, I'm going to put you on mute real quick. Okay, in the ways I've shared so far, and basically the magic of the coaching game is that it can be applied for any topic. Like I said, if you were doing a session where you were just going to have it based on 3 questions, what is working well for me in my leadership? What are my leadership strengths? And have the people choose a card. I'm going to send you, like I said, a few different articles and a couple of different workshops we have on our website. We have a new website and an old website. We're slowly fading into the new one. And on the old site, we have some fantastic workshops that our certified trainers have created that are available for you to use as well on leadership, on team building. Actually, yesterday, the woman I spoke to, as I shared at the beginning, who was working on a mine in Mexico, and she does behavioral change management, and she's wonderful. She shared that what she will often, she had endless creative ways that she's been using the coaching game. It was very inspiring. And she shared that often what she will do is, instead of coming up with an icebreaker or team building activity, she will have 20 people who've never met one another. She'll take the 65 cards, she'll put them in the middle of the room, and tell them to choose one card that reflects the theme. That's what she'll do. And while it sounds very simple, it's so powerful and so effective. You're getting a lot of conversation going, and the team has to come up with a card that reflects them. So that's a really neat way to do that. Of course, there's also a fantastic activity called the group puzzle dynamics that we have, which is along similar lines. But for example, if after, during a workshop, you did my photo album, and you ask your participants to each choose a card from their photo album that they connect most to. And then we're going to make a group puzzle out of our cards. So Lynn's going to bring her card, and here's Margaret, here comes Karen, Jill, Cristobal with their cards. Well, suddenly Dale comes over and grabs Lynn's card and says that Karen's isn't important. You know, all of these things that happen in group dynamics, you as a facilitator are observing from the side, and later you're able to bring these up in conversation and really use what happened and what just played out in the creation of the group puzzle as a fantastic team building exercise. And again, I'll send you the full activity step by step, what you need to do for that. But I think that we're going to talk, I would like to talk, I didn't get to the layout charts yet. Dale, I'm going to keep your question in mind. Any templates for any type of activity that you do with the coaching game can be applied to team building just like it can to leadership, just like it can to communication, just like it can to my strengths as a teacher, just like it can be to what is important to me in my home with my family. The topics are very interchangeable. They can be applied to anything. So keep that flexibility in mind and think about how everything can be adapted that way to leadership development, to team building, to all that. Okay, let's quickly talk about the layout charts, which can be used one-on-one or with groups. And there's 4 different processes here. There's awakeness, gain and loss, past, present, and future, and relationships. And these are, again, these are templates. These are to get you in the habit of thinking in small, easy bites. The questions are very simple, past, present, and future. We're talking about our team. You want to do team building? Great. What happened in the past? We're going to each choose a card, face up or face down, depending on what you'd like to do as for what I said at the beginning. Face up or face down, what happened in the past? And we have everybody share. Well, in the past, I'm choosing a card randomly. In the past, I got this card belief. In the past, I felt like we were all aligned. We were going the same way. There was, you know, all sorts of growth with the grass, and there was a lot of faith. We were really in it together, and that's what I feel like happened in the past. Jill will share something different. Cristobal and Pedro will have their own perspective. Again, that was a random card. You could also have them choose the cards face up and to have them answer the question, what happened in the past? What do you feel happened in the past? And again, that may keep them stuck on their story that they're feeling already and that they're telling themselves. And choosing a card randomly may offer the opportunity for them to think about it in a fresh, different perspective. The next question is, what is happening now? Choosing a card. I got that. Now, all of that excitement that was going on with the faith and the belief and the moving forward, it's over. I feel stuck. I feel like I'm not moving. I feel like you're just hanging around, and this team is not functioning for me. That's how I feel, for example. And then the third question is, what potential is there? Now, if you're working one-on-one, fantastic, use the layout chart. If you're using it in a group, you can, of course, offer, if you'd like to have each participant have their own set of the coaching game, you can talk to me about that, no problem. But you can also create your own layout chart and print it out. I'm going to send you a template. Bye, Jonathan. I'm going to send you a template that is blank that you can fill out and you can use in sessions. But this concept here is all about keeping it simple and to not overthink it. Sometimes the questions that we have as educators, as trainers, as psychologists and therapists are big. And sometimes these questions can be broken down into many questions. What is happening now? I don't think it gets more simple than that. And that's going to offer you endless opportunities for sharing and discussing. So use these and remember that they can be applied for any topic. You could be talking about my financial situation. And here we are with gain and loss. And I'm going to work today with my therapist or with my coach about my financial situation and my spending, let's say. Okay, what am I gaining? What is the price I'm paying? What is the insight? Very simple. Face up or face down. If you haven't experienced a layout chart yourself yet, then I don't think you should use it with someone else quite yet. Give yourself the opportunity. Take a few minutes and invest in yourself. One of our values is inner research. If you don't experience it yourself, it's going to be a totally different experience working with others. Try one of the layout charts after the call. Give yourself 10 minutes. Go through it and see what happens when you choose. Do the same layout chart twice. One with the cards face down and one when you choose the cards face up. Perhaps start with the face up. Choose the cards face up to answer the question and then do it again. I see smiling here. And then do it again with the cards face down. And then send me an email and let me know how it goes because I'd love to hear. Okay, so that's about the layout chart. On the layout chart, there's also a spot for focus notes. Now this is...
Talia,
yes,
can I
please.
interrupt?
Please.
I have a fairly old set, and on my layout chart it says, I'm not sure if that is a mistake, it says awakeners, and I always struggle with that one. Can you say a few words how I can use that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
We are very aware that awakeness is probably not in the dictionary, but it is the best suited word. It's the awakeness. It's not awareness. It's kind of like how awake you are, where you are and how awake you're feeling. It depends on the topic that you're using. Try not to struggle with it and to kind of let it go and see what happens and see how it could connect to a topic you're working with. As you'll see, the questions are, it says to create an awareness regarding a specific topic and to take a closer look at it. Okay, so it's kind of like, well, what is the real issue? For example, let's talk about my management challenges. And the point is to see where am I in being like awake about it. Do you know what I mean? We know that it's not a real word and it's okay. We don't mind doing things a little outside of the box a lot. So go with it. There's no right or wrong interpretation.
No, but it gives me a new perspective on that.
Great. Fantastic. Any other questions? I'm appreciating your questions and thoughts a lot, so thank you for sharing. Okay, so focus notes. So the focus notes can be used, again, in groups if you're doing work with a team, or they can be used one-on-one. The point is to incorporate the power of writing into the process. So here you have your focus notes. They're in the inside of the game. You just go ahead, rip it out. Don't worry about using it up. If you love focus notes and you use them all up and you don't want to waste them, don't worry about that. Send me an email. I'm happy to send you another little thing of it. So don't worry. Use them, enjoy them, and love them. That's most important. Okay, so to incorporate the power of writing into this process in a small way is to take out the focus note and to bend it this way. Now what happens often is that even if we're talking about in a group with the experiential encounter like I shared, and everybody's supposed to share what is working well in your life, well, all it takes is somebody to get a card that triggers their memory about something and they're answering a totally different question. It's very easy to get unfocused while you're sharing with one of these cards. Suddenly you're just talking about what you like about the card, how you connect to the card, and the participant isn't answering the question through the card, which is kind of the objective. So the focus notes offer an opportunity for you, or the participant, to write down the issue that you're discussing. My pregnancy, my parenthood, my teaching, whatever, okay? And that way it can be set like a little tent on the layout chart like that and keep your participant focused, okay? You also can write down, after the process has been completed, some significant insights that came through the process. They can write them down. Some action steps that they're going to take in the next 24 hours, in the next week and month. And also, another thing that you can do here is you can write down the cards. Your participant can write down the cards that they receive during the process. Something that we do almost always as trainers is, whether it's for a company, big or small, or a school, whatever, is that we'll take pictures during the session and we'll send them to the participants or to the clients afterwards. The photos aren't used anywhere else, it's only for them, because there's often a lot of magic that happens during these sessions. And they're in it and they're loving it, and later for them to get an email with these photos really brings it back and they really connect again. You'll see participants and clients often taking pictures of the cards that they got because they love them. You may notice that suddenly a card is missing from your deck because somebody really loved the card. That happens too. All you have to do is let me know. Of course, we can replace the card for you. But that happens. And so writing down the cards there and encouraging them to take a photo for them is a really neat way for them to also have something to take away with them. That's a bit about the focus note. Any questions?
No, I don't have a question, but I want to share with you something that I've been doing, and it is that sometimes I don't have the chance to meet with my coaches personally, so I ask them to choose random numbers, 1, 3, or 5 random numbers from 1 to 65. And then I choose the cards for them and put them in a document, send them through the email, and work with them from there. I've found that it is very important then to meet with them, even if it is just the audio, to hear them and help them to elaborate their ideas, because sometimes they feel alone and they don't kind of understand just the death card, as you mentioned at the beginning. It may cause some blocking, but other than that, it's working pretty well.
Great, wonderful. That's a wonderful creative way to get around that, and it's neat. So I'm happy to hear that it's effective. Thank you for sharing. Any other thoughts, ideas, questions? Let's see if I have something in the chat box. Okie dokie. One moment. Okay. So, we discussed the cards, face up and face down, about the layout chart, about the book, which I love, and the stories that are fantastic. So there's 2 things that we can do now. First of all, because we started a bit late, I'm more than happy to, of course, finish a bit late. That's no problem. If anybody, though, I understand, needs to leave, then that's no problem, too. The focus notes, I got a question about the focus notes, which I just shared about. Do you have a specific question about the focus notes? Oh, that was before. Okay, good. So we just shared about that. So 2 different things we could do. We have about 5 or 6 minutes left. If anybody would like to share a bit about the work they do and would like to get some more ideas, fantastic. If you would like to hear a story from the book, I'm more than happy to read a story and give you an example, a little taste of how it is when I read the stories in the workshops. I'm open to ideas. Oh, cute baby. Elena, how sweet. If you have a preference or idea, please feel free to write it down. Okay, I'm getting a lot of requests for the story. You made my day. I'm in the mood. Okay, good. So, I'm going to read to you my favorite one. Oh, that's such a sweet baby. Okay. I don't know if you can all see. Anyway, all right. So I'm going to read to you Stuck. Not terribly long. Maybe there will be time for one more. All right, Stuck is on page in my book, and this edition is on 106. And it's a fantastic story to read for whatever topic you're discussing, whether it's leadership or whether it's for a team building session, whether you're with high schoolers or with bankers. It applies. All right. Two seeds sat side by side in a fertile flower bed during springtime. The one seed was eager to grow and flower. Its thoughts were filled with visions of itself germinating and pushing through the earth, sending its stem up towards the sun, climbing higher and higher and blossoming, drinking the dewdrops that collected on its leaves at night, sending out more stems and shoots, spreading over the land above and embracing Mother Earth. And thus, the seed started to grow in the flower bed. The second seed, on the other hand, was apprehensive about beginning this growing process. If I start to put down roots and my stems begin growing, I will get wet. From the dewdrops, my leaves will be trampled by the birds and snails. Butterflies will feed off me. And when my flowers bloom, they will be picked and placed in a vase. It thought to itself, I will sit here quietly in the earth and put down roots only when I feel more at ease about doing so. And the second seed waited. A bird that just then landed in the flower bed, pecked in the earth, found the seed that was waiting, and ate it. That's Stuck. That's one of my favorites. Another thing to note, and a fantastic, I hope you enjoyed. Funny to read to a computer screen. Thank you. Another thing that I got a fantastic comment here is that the punctum, the cards that are in our second game, the words are corresponding to words from the coaching game, and the page number on those word cards is the page number of the book. And so the two games can be used together very well like that. So that's me. Okay, my friends, that's the end of our session. If anybody has any questions, now is the time. If you'd like me to know something, send you something, whatever it is, we are always here, always available, more than happy to. Support, however possible. If you'd like to learn more and you're loving the coaching game and you'd like to join me and Lynn, who's going to be here, Lynn and myself, at the certification program that is going to be in May in New York City, just outside of New York City, then you are welcome to join us. Send me an email and we can talk about the course and see if it's a great idea. I mean, I think it is, but it's up to you. And you'll learn a lot from the creators' points of view. And if you think I'm energetic, just wait until you've seen them. Thank you all so much. You're going to get a juicy email from me now. It was a pleasure to speak with you from Hong Kong and Colombia and Guam and Canada and New York. So thank you for reading the newsletter and for joining us today. Bye-bye from Israel. Bye.
Goodbye, Talia.
Adios.
Goodbye, adios. Hasta luego.
See ya. Thank you, Iris. Thanks, Karen. Bye, Margaret.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Bye.
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 Sorry?
Talia, may I have a, yeah. Talia, may I have a question? May I have a question?
Yes.
Okay. I just understand, I mean, I've never seen this card before, and basically I doesn't have any set yet, so it's just my first question, just to, see what is going on, and because now I'm interested in coaching of working with a young mom.
Oh, Elena, I can't hear you. The connection is cut out.
Now.
Wonderful. Congratulations. I will be too soon. But Elena, I can't hear you very well. The connection is not good, so can you please send me an email? I will send you an email. Okay, anybody else? Alrighty.
Bye-bye, thanks.
Bye, Pedro, bye-bye.